Well, good afternoon, folks. Dan here, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about all things filming in the outdoors. All the stuff I've got behind me is what I took with me last summer when I went into the Yukon for 12 days alone. I filmed myself every single day using various cameras. And I say the biggest question I get asked is, how did you keep everything going and what did you take? So stay tuned and let's go through it. I'm not an expert in photography or filming. This is just something I've just picked up and learned along the way, watching various stuff on YouTube and just getting advice of friends. I had to figure it all out myself. So I had to find out, what was the best cameras, what would the capacity be on memory cards, batteries, how long would they last? So you've got to try stuff before you go out on your expedition. So, treat it as a bit of a hobby. Get out there and just see which cameras work for you. You can keep it very, very simple and film everything off a phone. It all depends on really what you're trying to achieve and what you want to capture. What I was doing, filming on the river and moving as I went, I wanted to capture lots of different angles and different aspects. So I did need a few different cameras. So it was trial and error a little bit, but I then sort of narrowed it down to what I needed. So let's go through it bit by bit. Right. So one of the things I wanted to film a lot was sort of static positions by the fire, getting the fire going, cooking my food, just sitting at that where the tent is and enjoying these beautiful locations. So I wanted a sort of a wider lens for that. So I invested in just a second-hand DSLR camera. This is a Lumix. Again, I'm no expert in photography, just stuff what I've kind of looked at reviews and things like that. All the kit here, by the way, is second-hand. Yep, I didn't buy any of it new, just to save some money because it can cost a lot of money. So this DSLR camera, it's a Lumix. It's got quite a good zoom. I did practice with it quite a lot, and the battery life is surprisingly really, really good. Yeah, it's a Lumix DMC FZ1000. It's got a really long zoom on it, and a few times on the trip I could zoom in and see various animals and things. So this was really good. Sound quality is a big thing. So you need decent microphones because you're going to get wind and stuff like that. So again, get out and test. But you can buy cheap microphones off Amazon that plug into your camera. Just make sure that they're compatible. So this was the DSLR I took with me just for that wide, long zoom that I wanted. And the quality was really good with it as well. Quite bulky, but that was my first camera. So everything needs spare batteries. All right, so we'll get to batteries in a minute, but I had 3 spare batteries with that camera. So one in, and the other 2 were charging as and when. And they'll come with little charging cradles as well. Again, you can pick all this stuff up off Amazon. So that was the DSLR. GoPros, right. You'll have seen I had a GoPro attached. Well, you could sort of get various angles on the canoe as I was going down. So paddling down rapids, I wanted to film forwards. I also wanted to film towards me as well, so you get those 2 aspects. So again, I bought one GoPro second hand. This has got a little crack on the screen, which doesn't affect the filming at all, but I got it a bit cheaper. This is a GoPro 10 Hero, absolutely spot on, works really well. Only downside with the GoPros is that everybody knows, well, most people know, is that they go through batteries super quick, especially if it's cold temperatures. So I had 3 banks of 3 of these batteries here. You could buy these cradles. These aren't original GoPro batteries. Again, they're Amazon specials, but they seem to do the job. They go into a cradle and then they charge via USB port. So I was going through those quite quick. So you have to be really mindful on your filming and just film the parts that you really want to. If you keep just letting your camera film and film, then obviously it uses all your power. So there's all that stuff to think about. So I had 2 GoPros, one on my helmet, and the other one was attached to this thing. Now this is called a Magic Arm, and this is an amazing bit of kit. This thing is made by Manfrotto, and when you click that handle, it becomes rigid. So you can attach this This was to attach to the canoe, and it was the angle that was facing me. So you'll see in some of the videos that you had that sort of front facing angle, or back facing angle as it were. It clamps into your canoe, and then you can just change that. The GoPro mounts on the top. Change the angle as you want with this arm. You can move it around, you can stow it away. Really good. Second hand, I think this was like 30 quid off eBay. Quite bulky, quite heavy, but it's dead robust. It's a great bit of kit. Also, this string here was just the tether. So this was also tied to the canoe just to make sure if this came off, I wouldn't lose it. So that's a Magic Arm, GoPro on that. My other camera I had, so what are we on now? 1, 2, 3, fourth camera is this. This was an Insta360, or a fisheye people call it. So you've got two cameras on this thing, and it films 360. So you get these cool shots where you can film all different angles. When it comes to editing the software or editing the footage, you can manipulate it to move however you want it to when you're ready to sort of edit that film. So this was really good. I didn't use it loads, but for some cool shots I got. So these are good. Again, this actually isn't mine. I borrowed it off a very good friend of mine, and I'll give him it back. You know, so again, I'm not shelling out too much money. One thing I will say about this is I've already had to replace the lens. You have to be super careful on these. These will scratch really, really easily. You can get lens protectors which go on top. I would advise you to get them, or just keep the cover on when you're not filming. Okay, next camera, it's the last camera, is the drone. All right, I wanted some really cool aerial shots, especially where I was going, you know, right in the wilderness. I wanted to get nice and high up and see what was around. So I managed to do that a few times. Now, don't just buy a drone and go out somewhere like that. You know, practice flying it around, which I did a lot. You know, get used to the conditions that it can deal with. Get used to all the features on the drone. This is a DJI Mini 3 Pro, second hand. I saved about a couple of £100. It's only been used twice. Chuffed to bits with it. It's probably my favourite camera. It's so good. Batteries again that come with that, with this drone. There was 3 batteries. These are quite juice heavy, so they'll take a lot to charge. But for what I needed it for, I only had about 4 or 5 flights on the trip, so it worked for me for sure. Okay, let's move on to power. So it's all good and well having all these lovely cameras, but how do you keep them powered? So batteries, I got some advice off a guy who supplies me with batteries for the last expedition, the guy called Tim Sheridan from Mobile Solar Chargers. Check him out. He does all things solar power and battery power. I originally was going to bring a bit of a power bank with me, a small sort of Jackery or an Anker, you know, quite a small one, which would sort of have a lot of power in it for me for the trip. But I realized that actually you couldn't take it on the plane. The lithium content in the battery is just too much. So he advised me to get these bad boys, and these were brilliant. So this is the biggest battery you can get that you can take on a plane in your luggage. All right, this is there's 2 of these, and they are 20,000 mega amps. I think I've said that right. 3.7 volts. Basically, you'll get about 4 charges of your mobile phone out of this, maybe a bit more. So these 2 were my kind of lifeline. So these were charged up. Everything was charged before I left on the trip. When I was in the cabin, got everything charged up, including all the devices. And then after that, whenever I could, I would always have 1 battery on charge plugged into the solar panel. And I had 2 of these. Actually, I had 3 of these, actually, because one of them broke. So one of them stopped working. These things are fantastic. They're really good, providing you've got sun. Even if you've got overcast day like this, you still get little bits of power coming through, which will just top your batteries up a little bit. So there's all that to think about as well. If you're in the Yukon in the summer, it doesn't really get dark, so I could afford to have one of these panels on all of the time, charging up the batteries. So that's 5 cameras now. So we've got the 2 GoPros, we've got the Insta360, we've got the DSLR camera, we've got the drone. Also, as a backup, I had the iPhone, which is what we're filming on right now. I had a friend of mine gave me some advice. He's into filming, and he said to me, what I would say is get yourself an iPhone, the newest iPhone if you can. And this is probably the biggest expense actually. I bought an iPhone 16 Pro, which had a terabyte of storage on, and this is what we're filming on right now. And that was just as a backup. And to be honest, the last 3 days, I've done most of the filming from this device, what we're looking at now. So definitely have a mobile phone as a backup, worst case scenario, and just get loads of storage on it if you can afford it before you go out there. So you've got that just in case. Cool. So there's, 6 cameras. All right, so other bits and bobs that came with it. So stands. This little stand here was handy for putting the phone on and things. The GoPro was attached to my helmet or the Magic Arm, but these little stands are really handy, super cheap. Pick them up, get a couple of them. They are quite brittle, so maybe get 2 of those. So guys, this is the tripod that I was talking about. Really lightweight, and it folds away nicely. You can stash. It's not the most robust, but it survived 14 days in the wilderness and it's still okay now. So, and it was like 3 times as cheap than a Manfrotto one or any of the others, and much lighter. Another very handy bit of kit I've got since doing my expedition is this mount here for your mobile phone. It's very, very handy. You can, get your phone on there and clamp it down. This is quite hardware, and it's made by a company called Leap Light. And I think that was Amazon as well. So, yeah. So a few of the little things you want to take along with it, bring some spares, all right? Especially stuff like this, your little, your bolts for your GoPro brackets and things like that. Maybe a couple of spare brackets. These little things are handy, that you can put the GoPro on and then strap it to your jacket or something like that if your hands are tied. This was handy for me when I was doing my portaging with the canoe on my head. I could clip the GoPro on. So yeah, super handy little things. Spare blades for the drone, stuff like that. Make a list, go through everything, have a think in your head, what's likely to break the easiest, and then get a few spare things for that. Spare cables, they always break, don't they? So, be meticulous in your lists and get your spare stuff in. Brill. Right, keeping all this stuff safe. Right, it's dead delicate, isn't it? It's all fiddly stuff, it's technical stuff. Any water gets in there, it's going to get damaged and not work. So you need desperate measures, all right? So, especially if you're on the river. So what you want is one of these Peli cases, all right? I went back and forth about using small Peli cases, but more of them. But then it was just more stuff to carry. So I just narrowed it down and got everything I needed inside of this sort of medium-sized one. And this worked absolutely spot on, to be honest. Everything had its own little place in there. Everything fits in there, the camera, the drone, all that sort of stuff. And then it just locks tight and it's got its sort of seal in there. And everything stays nice and safe and dry. All right, this isn't made by Pelicase, which is sort of quite expensive. This was an Amazon special again, and you know what? It done the job. It really, really did. So I'm not quite sure how much this was. I think it was maybe about 45 quid. But it was perfect and fit for the task. Brill. Okay, next up, you want to think about, are your cameras working and shooting right? So are they all on the right setting? Again, it's about getting out and practicing and speaking to people in the know. And that's exactly what I did. A guy kindly helped me out and gave me almost a checklist of what settings to put all my cameras on. So they were all filming in a good sort of average setting, which would be perfect for all conditions. So I set all my GoPros to that. The camera, it was all on the right sort of, it was 4K for most of them, I think, or 1080 for some. But I sorted all that out before I went on the trip, so there was nothing to worry about. All I had to do was press shoot on the camera and then off it would go. Again, practice that and look at the film, look at the quality of the filming before you go out there as well, just so you're not fiddling around when you're out on expedition. So I had a crib sheet of all those settings to put them on. I could probably find them if anybody wants them as well for the GoPros. So just put a message in if you'd like that information, I can put it on. Okay, let's talk memory cards. Now this can make or break your trip. I was clueless about storage and memories and gigabytes and all that sort of stuff. It's kind of double Dutch to me a bit. But as you go on and you start using the stuff, you start to figure it out and learn. And again, it's about just going big, I think, and having plenty of them. So plenty of memory cards. And I decided that every 2 days, when the memory card filled up with memory, I would then put it into a little bag or a little box and label it, you know, days 1 to 2. And then I would put it in there. So it was all kind of documented, if you like. So at the end of the trip, I knew what was what, and I didn't have to sort of sift through hours and hours of filming. You've got a bit of an idea already. So I would advise on doing that. So have some little mini bags or little plastic boxes like this where you can put your cards in. Size wise, I would probably go minimum 64 gigabytes. But I had a few really big ones, sort of 120 and stuff like that. But minimum 64, you'll just get more time out of it. I think the quality's better. Again, I'm no expert. I've got another one here. Yeah, most of those are 64. I've got a couple of 120 gigs as well, which obviously last longer. When you finish your trip, you don't want to lose all that filming. You don't, for whatever reason. So you want to back it up straight away. And again, my friend who does a lot of filming said you want 3 copies of that if you can, just in case something goes wrong. Imagine that you filmed this amazing trip in the middle of nowhere where you're probably never going to go back to, and then you lose all that filming. You'd just be absolutely gutted. So straight away, I bought 3 of these storage devices, and then I put all of my stuff onto 3 of these. Sorry, 2 of these, and I still had all the memory cards. Just that way I know that, you know, I'm never going to lose that precious content. So, you know, capture that stuff straight away. Okay, batteries. Some more batteries I took with me. A couple of smaller ones. This one was just a light as well as a battery. This is a cableless charging battery where you can just put your phone on top of it and that charges. You'll get a couple of charges out of this. This is quite a good one. Handy little light as well. And just this little one, I had this fully charged and it was wrapped up in some tape, and that lived in my survival bag, which I had on me at all times. So worst case scenario, let's just say I got separated from my kit. This was a little power bank and a lead with it, which could charge my Garmin if I needed to get in touch with help. So that was my kind of emergency battery, if you like. So that was super handy. So just getting back to the solar panels, these are your lifeline, all right? Without these, you can't charge your batteries. So you need at least 2 of these. I was lucky that Peter had another spare one in the cabin. So just before I left, I thought, you know what, I'm going to take that with me. And I needed it as well. Luckily I did, I shoved it in. These things fold up to nothing, and they're super light. You can get sort of double ones of these now as well, which are kind of, you know, 3 that side. Really light and just really, really effective. So there's lots of different types on the market. Have a look on Mobile Solar Chargers. He has got a good selection. Check Tim out. So yeah, you definitely need spares of solar panels. Well, that just about wraps this video up, guys. I hope you found that informative. This was just the outfit that I decided to go with. You might just want to take one GoPro and your phone. It just depends. Depends what you want to do. And just get out there and practice and decide, you know, what works for you and what fits for you. And you know, what do you want to achieve out of the filming? So I would love to hear your comments about any of this stuff, what you've used, what you find better. If you've got any questions about anything, just shoot me a message and then we'll go from there. But yeah, there's nothing better than filming that amazing adventure you've just done, so you can then look back on it for years to come and enjoy it. So thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon on the next adventure.